Welcome back to our discussion on the new faction-specific secondaries from Warzone Nephilim. We're continuing talking about Space Marine secondaries and rating them bad, situational, or very good. And now it's time for Black Templars' turn to the plate. I plan to release videos on secondaries for all the factions of Warhammer 40k, so drop a subscribe on the video and hit that notification button down below to watch them as soon as they go live. Black Templars are the first non-codex compliant chapter that we'll be covering, so it's important to talk about their mechanics. This subset of Space Marine subfactions covers chapters that have their own printed supplement, and each have 3 unique secondaries that they can take, assuming their entire army belongs to that chapter or is an Imperial agent. Since they are still Space Marines, these chapters are eligible to take objectives from both their faction-specific set and the generic Space Marine set, and can mix and match from both lists. The first Black Templars objective is Bathe Your Blade in the Blood of the Foe. This is a Purge the Enemy objective that competes with Assassination, Bring It Down, and Codex Warfare. It is a challenge objective, and while I haven't studied every single challenge secondary in the format in excruciating detail quite yet, I'm gonna go ahead and make a sweeping generalization and predict that I'm probably gonna rate them all as bad. This objective allows you to choose a friendly character and an enemy character to be challengers, and scores you 5 victory points each time if the challenged enemy is destroyed, they're destroyed in melee, and the objective maxes out if they're destroyed in melee by the challenger, with the added bonus of also refunding USCP. These objectives are only really effective if your opponent has aggressive melee characters they want to be throwing into your army, which already makes them matchup dependent. From there, the character has to be valuable enough that your opponent can't simply hide them away from the battle, free 15 victory point lead, and squishy enough that you're guaranteed to kill it in melee once it commits. All those criteria are rarely the case, so all these criteria are rarely the case at the same time, so secondaries like these are often set aside. Next up, we have Allow Not the Worship of Unclean Idols, a battlefield supremacy secondary that competes with Engage on All Fronts, Behind Enemy Lines, and Shock Tactics. This is simply a slightly revised version of Shock Tactics, scoring you 2 victory points for each objective stolen from your opponent, rather than 3 if you stole an objective from your opponent, provided that you hold those objectives with chaplains or core infantry. This is an interesting take in an aggressive, high objective count mission like Tide of Conviction, but because you have to convert 2 objectives almost every turn to max your score, rather than the one that Shock Tactics requires, it often isn't a better pick. Lastly, we have Carry Out Your Vows, a No Mercy, No Respite secondary that competes with Grind Them Down, No Prisoners, and Oaths of Moment. The first half of this objective is a Grind Them Down equivalent, scoring 4 victory points if Black Templars killed more units in melee in a battle round than they lost units, up to a maximum of 12. While secondaries like these are often a trap, this can be a solid pick against aggressive, high unit count enemies, since you only need to score 3 rounds out of the 5 to max that section of the objective. The second half of the secondary scores you 3 victory points with the criteria depending on the Templar vow you've sworn at the start of the game. Destroying the enemy warlord in melee for Suffer Not the Unclean to Live, getting into your opponent's deployment zone with a unit above half strength for Uphold the Honor of the Emperor, destroying an enemy Psyker for Abhor the Witch, and killing an enemy unit with 20 models or at least 20 wounds for Accept Any Challenge no matter the odds. Unfortunately, Uphold the Honor of the Emperor will probably be the most commonly sworn Templar vow and has one of the more difficult sections to score out, which is already a mark against the secondary. The bonus secondaries for Accept Any Challenge no matter the odds and Abhor the Witch, Destroy the Witch are a little bit easier, only needing you to kill a single important enemy unit. But I have a suspicion that they don't synergize well with the O's that you would be taking in matchups like Grey Knights or Chaos Knights, where they're easier to score. And those matchups aren't the ones in which you'd be likely to score the first half of the secondary either. Overall, a potentially useful secondary that I could see work in some matchups, but generally is a little awkwardly designed. And that's all of the Black Templar specific secondaries. Let me know down in the comment section which Space Marine chapter you'd like me to cover next. Big thanks to all my channel supporters over on Patreon at patreon.com/tacticaltortoise, YouTube channel members, Twitch subscribers. All you people are phenomenal and I love you. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.